Islam, family, Islam, Islam. All right, back at it again, the Moorish experience. All right, we're going to do a public service announcement. This next demonstration is going to be on the subject of taxes. 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 So, get your paper and pencil out, take some notes, watch the video and the demonstration again, a couple of two, three times before you attempt this. This is my experience dealing with the national government and her government agencies. So sit back, relax. We're going to talk about taxes, what they are for, who are they for, how do we deal with it? We're going to get into that. If you make a mistake with this demonstration, you may find yourself in hot water with the de facto government, mainly the Internal Revenue Service. So we're going to put some lawful information on the screen. Again, this is information that I have personally used in my situation, the key being my situation. Everybody's situation is going to be different. So not only do you have to be mindful of what you're doing, but how you're doing it. We have a lawful process that we use here in our governmental structure with our members and citizens if they're desirous of addressing their personal tax situation. Again, everybody's situation is going to be different. Some of us have businesses. Some of us are trying to correct our status. Some of us are registered and codified and classified in the United States de facto national government at the federal level, state level, and municipalities as property. Some of us are citizens by the 14th Amendment. Some of us are U.S. citizens. Some of us have a federal citizenship. And then there are others, like myself, who are registered as non resident aliens. So we're going to deal with what it is and what it ain't. So I just wanted to put that public service announcement out there before I start the demonstration because everybody's situation is different and you should consult with a professional before you even think about attempting not paying taxes, who's responsible for paying taxes, under what circumstances should you pay, etc. So with that, hopefully you enjoy the demonstration. We're going to do our best to make it as enjoyable and knowledgeable as we can. Peace. Islam, Islam, Islam. All right. We back at it. Rising to my highest heights, giving all perfect praise to Allah, the creator of creation, extending those high honors to all of the great worthies who have come down the line of divine, mainly Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, and knowing something about these four Hebrew Muslims, we can talk to the entire planet, extending those high honors to the man that we are here to discuss today, the illustrious Hebrew prophet, the honorable prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of this most awesome organization, the Moorish Science Temple of Divine and National Movement of North America. The only man that I know of in modern history that brought us our nationality and birthright and keys to our vast estate. But I would not know anything about Prophet Noble Drew Ali or what he stood for or his teachings if it were not for our national grand sheikh, the head of our government body and politic and corporate. I would not know anything about Prophet Noble Drew Ali if it was not for our national grand sheikh, Joel Braden Bey, who resides in Baltimore, Maryland. extending those high honors not only to our national grand sheik, but to our grand body that he works with on a daily basis to move our government onward and upward, and hopefully one day in the future into perfection. Extending those high honors to all of the officers within our governmental structure, all of the sheiks, deputy sheiks, sheikesses, deputy sheikesses, and most importantly, to our future, our children. We want to greet everyone that may be watching this on social media and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube with Islam, 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 peace, peace, peace. That is simply, Islam is an Arabic word, simply means peace. And we cannot have enough peace in a mad, mad world that we find ourselves in currently. So hopefully this demonstration will bring you some peace and contentment of mind. Right now, we are reaching out to you, coming in from the Arizona Republic, where it is a cool, or should I say a hot, 115 degrees. Yes, that is not an exaggeration. The ambient air temperature outside right now is 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So not only is it a hot ambient air temperature outside, we have a hot subject for you today. It is on taxes. Whose taxes? Who is to pay taxes? What are the taxes for? Who are they for? Why did they come into existence? Etc., etc., etc. This probably is going to be a very emotional demonstration if you are watching it. And I know if you have a job or you have a business or you have a side hustle or you just a brother and sister that's trying to figure it out, one of the things that has crossed your mind is, why are we paying all these taxes? And the taxes, brother, because government say we supposed to pay. I know that's the common theory that is out there amongst 350 million people who claim to be United States citizens. I understand your sentiment, but sit back and relax, because today we're going to deal with not only taxes, but we're going to deal with who's going to pay and who should pay, because there are people who are being arrested for tax evasion. See, what is that all about? We're going to get into that. But first, we're going to take a trip down memory lane and see, how did we get here? How did we get in this situation where we are paying so much tax? Okay, taxes on gasoline, taxes on real estate, taxes on income, taxes, we just taxed to death. We're paying sales tax. You're being taxed at every turn, tax on food. It's out of control. I understand. But before we go there, I was speaking with the head of our government, and we're going to have to start getting acclimated to these positions and associating them with actual people and persons that we know within our governmental structure. Again, I was speaking with the head of our government, our National Grand Sheik Joe Braden Bey, who resides in Baltimore. And he informed me about 7 days ago, maybe a little less now, but he informed me that the United States de facto government is watching my demonstrations on my YouTube page. Now, that's such an honor for me. Now, that may scare the heck out of most of us, but for me, it is an absolute honor to have my and your open enemy watching one of your little brothers demonstrate and present information that they can do absolutely nothing about. Because what I am presenting is their information back at them. See, that's one thing that is different about our organization. We are not rogue. This is not a rogue nation state. This is a lawful nation state. And everything we have done as a governmental body has been within the confines of actual law, common law. The only time you will see myself or any of our officers, our sheiks and sheikesses, deputy sheiks and deputy sheikesses, utilizing United States codes and whatnot is only for illustrative purposes. We don't deal with statutory law because statutory laws only apply to corporate entities, legal fictions, see, not natural persons. I just wanted to put that caveat out there. So it is an absolute honor for me to have the United States government watching what I say, watching what I demonstrate. Doesn't bother me at all. And I definitely want you to watch this demonstration. Definitely. Because most of us are absolutely terrified of the United States government and all of her government agencies. It's okay. You've been made to fear the United States government. I understand. But Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, and every time I say Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, you should come a little closer to your camera, to your screen. Slide up a little more in your chair. Come almost to attention. Your spiritual antenna should shoot straight up out your head, and you should be tuning up on the words next. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, you are afraid of the man, meaning white man, that is afraid of me. Did you catch that? Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, you, Asiatics, are afraid of the man being the white man, and he is afraid of me, meaning Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So how is it that you follow the illustrious Hebrew prophet and they are not afraid of you? If you are in fact playing follow the leader. If we're playing follow the leader, where the leader put his foot down, you put your foot down. Where he go, you go. What you see him do, you do. You don't step out in front of the leader, you follow the leader. But many of us are afraid to follow the leader because we are not studying the leader's information. Notice, I did not mention our National Grand Sheikh in that little piece that I just did. I said, follow the leader. I said, Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, you are afraid of the man that is afraid of me. See? We're going to deal with our National Grand Sheikh in just a minute. It's all right. You see, because if you've been watching my demonstrations, you see that when we put governmental paperwork on the screen for you to view, you see our National Grand Sheikh's signature on everything. And it spans several years. So they definitely, being the de facto government, that is the they definitely know who this man is and his relationship to the illustrious Hebrew prophet. hint to the wise is sufficient. Okay. Now this is the backdrop. So I'm not nervous. I'm not afraid to speak straight words to these people that are causing absolute hell on those who are called United States citizens. I'm not afraid of them at all. Brother and sister, I've been at this a long time in one facet or another. And my image now is all over the World Wide Web. I don't know who is watching these videos. I don't know the range and who's watching what, who's doing what. But I know this, based on consistency. If what you are hearing and seeing was inaccurate, my phone would have rung by now. Because you have watched enough movies, action-packed adventure thrillers, to know that the United States government don't play with people when they come crazy. You see, they will ring your mobile. They will visit you, as some of our members found out, in a real way. When you come incorrect, they don't care nothing about you being under the leadership of National Grand Sheikh Joel Bratton Bey. They will come visit you. The FBI will give you a little knock on the door. Cease and desist what you're doing. Well, Deputy Sheikh Thomas Muhammad Hill, I haven't gotten a visit like that. And if I had a visit like that, you probably would have seen it by now, because I like to record stuff like that. Because the same way I talk in this Moorish Experience platform is the same way I talk on my job. It's the same way I talk in the public. I am not a keyboard warrior where we just blasting folks behind the keyboard and the microphone and the cameras. And then when we meet you in the street, now all of a sudden you ain't got no testicles. You talking all soft. Yeah, I'm talking to y'all to act like that, because I have seen it in my own person. I have seen it. I've seen what you do out here. You know, I've seen what you do. Talk real tough until you meet somebody that's not going to take your foolishness. You see, I will never forget it. I'm going to share this experience. I will never forget it. I met the Duke of Tears. That's what the brother called himself, so that's what I'm going to call it. I met the Duke of Tears out here. He was doing a presentation to some of his followers, if you will. And we were at a restaurant, and I was doing my little demonstration, and I had forgot some paperwork, so I had to step out to my car to get this paperwork. Well, in the parking lot, the brother was getting out of a car with his people. He had his people with him. I did not know who this brother was. But this is what I did know. I saw the little feather. He had a little feather in his hat. I was like, oh, brother wearing a turban. You know, Islam Mo. I didn't know who he was. And we went on ahead and we proceeded into the restaurant. And I went back to my demonstration. Now, he was sitting about a couple of tables from me, so he could hear what I was saying, and he could definitely see what I was demonstrating on. And at a certain point, he kind of, you know, Mo, you know what's happening, don't you? Yes, sir. I still don't know who he is, you see. And he said, can I see the paperwork? I just so happen to have some of our United States State Department paperwork in my possession with Condoleezza Rice's signature on it. So the question came up, well, who are you with? Who are you with? And I proudly said, oh, yes, sir. I'm with National Grand Sheikh Joel Bratton Bey out of Baltimore, Maryland. You would have thought, I cussed the brother or something. The brother packed up all his little paperwork And him and his followers got up and left the restaurant. I'm like, brother, you ain't even eat your food. They left. And I'm like, what is it about our National Grand Sheik that the minute I mention his name, the conversation is over? We were having a good time. We were eating, having a good time. We had taken over at least half the restaurant. We had moles from everywhere. We had Nation of Islam in there. The FOI was in there. Had some MGT in there. We had Moors in there. Had one or two Europeans. It was a nice set until I mentioned National Grand Sheik Joe Braden Bey's name. All that came to a screeching halt. And that's just one occasion. I've had a few occasions like this, and it is just beside me. What is it about this man? And when I met National Grand Sheik, when I physically met him, I was like, well, he ain't no, really? Not like 6'5", brother. I'm 6'5", 250 pounds. I was like, well, they tell me I'm intimidating. Okay, I guess. But National Grand I don't get that vibe. That don't mean he's less. It just means I don't get that vibe from him physically. That's what I'm saying. And I'm like, what is it about this man? I'm trying to figure it out. But after a few years of these experiences, I said, oh, his signature is on everything. No Moorish organization has the paper trail that we have. Now, if you've been watching my demonstrations, I have literally put paperwork in front of you, different things to make the point. And I have been blessed by Allah to put it together in a certain way to where it makes sense. I'm not talking above your head. Praise be to Allah on that. You see? That's because I stay in the information, and I always try to find some tangibility where I can put on the screen so you don't walk around and say, well, that's what the brothers say. That's what he said. I'm not here trying to sell you books. I'm not saying things to get you excited so I can later sell you something. I don't want nothing from you except for you to take this information that is being presented and change your life for the better. Proclaim your nationality, get out from up under the de facto government and all of her government agencies so that you can have something to save your life and your family's life, in the future. This is real. We have entered into a period of utter darkness, darkness being ignorance. We have a lot of information in the society, but the people are ignorant, and those that know are fearful. So it don't do you no good to have all this information and you still ain't got no testes. I got to use language that men understand. You ain't got no testicle fortitude. You feel me? When it comes to white folks who are really Europeans, you just ain't got it. You see, but you talk real tough on YouTube. But you talk real tough when you're at the barbershop. You talk real tough when you're talking to other Asiatics. But where it counts, where it actually counts, down at the courthouse. See, when it actually counts with the police, when it actually counts dealing with the Internal Revenue Service, when it actually counts on your job, you have no nuts. I'm just saying. Then you want to rely on somebody like me to be like, well, Debbie Sheik, why don't you say this, that, and third? I am not your spokesman. This is a Republican form of government, and every tub must stand on its own bottom. That's what this is about. So if you want somebody to speak for you, if you want somebody to represent you, then you need to stay under the de facto democracy. Stay in the United States jurisdiction. Stay under the national government. Stay there. leave Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the corporate body and politic and corporate that he established August the 1st, 1928 at 2:52 p.m. Free national government. Leave that alone. Because this ain't gonna work for you. Why? Because that means you are dependent. You are dependent on somebody else to do for you what you can do for yourself. All it requires is a little study, just a little study. And then a little bit of application. That's all it requires. But most of us are afraid. Most of us are afraid. And once you are afraid, we can do anything to you. So many of us live in, I wish they would do something to me, brother. I wouldn't have took that. Yes, you would. Shut up. You would took it. You would take it. You take it. You're talking to a man that has been locked down. I have seen many brothers, strong brothers, talking about what they would not do, and they end up doing it. Yep. Yep. It ain't about what you say, brother. It's about what you can prove and demonstrate. Anywho, so we're going to get off into this subject today called taxes. And before we go there, before you get yourself in serious trouble with the de facto government, let me do this here. Hold on, let me find something. Hold on, there it is. Here we go. This is my YouTube page. This shouldn't be nothing new to you. And if it is new to you, type my name in, Thomas Muhammad Eel, in YouTube, and this page will come up. Thomas, Thomas, space, last name, Muhammad, space, EL. Thomas Muhammad Eel. Type it in YouTube, and this page will come up. The Moorish Experience. This is my experience in this Moorish paradigm. It's not your experience. It's my experience. It is my interaction within this body politic and corporate called the Moorish Science Temple of Divine and National Movement of North America Incorporated, number 13, under the Moorish American National Republic, under the leadership of Joel Bratton Bay, National Grand Chief Joel Bratton Bay, who resides in Baltimore. It's my relationship and my experience. So if you find benefit in it, good for you. If you don't like it, close it out, good for you. It doesn't faze me at all. I'm not here for a bunch of likes and followers and whatnot and subscribers. But if you want to subscribe, good for you, because there's going to be some content coming up there. But the content that we're going to deal with today, you see this demonstration up here called a Moorish paperwork process. You see that one right there with 338 views, it looked like 4 months ago. Now, I noticed that this particular demonstration has more views on it than anything else. Why is that? Why is that? Is it that we have a bunch of people that are trying to get out of something? Is it that we want something for nothing? Huh? Is that what's going on? I'm sure we got some people in there trying to get free, but it is absolutely disturbing that that has 300 plus views on it. Now the question becomes, did you follow the lawful demonstration that and the lawful process that I demonstrated in the video? I don't know. That's a question for you, not for me. But I will say this: if you did not follow word for word exactly what I said to do and how I said to do it, you better leave this demonstration alone. Because this one here going to be dealing with the Internal Revenue Service and taxes. You don't want, listen, brother and sister, let me explain something to you. This is not an organization you want to get tangled up with. Okay? And I don't give out advice when it comes to dealing with taxes and things like that. I don't do that because I found that many of us are just not honest. We're just not honest. You'll come like this. You'll want to get out of paying taxes. You'll hear me say something about what taxes are not lawful, et cetera, et cetera. But then you will fail to mention that you owe back taxes. You'll fail to mention that part. You'll fail to mention that they're getting ready to knock on your door any minute now. You'll fail to mention that you owe back child support. You'll fail to mention that you cannot secure a passport because you have some extenuating circumstance within the de facto government and her agencies that is prohibiting you from moving forward. So what you want to do is come to the Moorish Experience, and you want to find some video that will give you a remedy without exposing your dirty hand. This is not going to work for you if that is your position, and I'm finding that that's most of our positions. The reason things work for me the way that they work is because I do not go to court with dirty hands. If I owe you money, I will pay you. See? And the reason I'm paying you is because I don't want you to have any redress. I don't want you coming back in the future talking about, well, that brother talking all tough. He owe me $5. No, I'm going to pay you. You see? That way, I can continue to talk as bold as I talk, because there is nothing more important to me than being a man. Now, some of y'all don't like that. Some of you Mobitises don't like that. You don't want no man to sit here and tell you what to do. You're a grown woman. Yeah, I know what to do. Well, go on, do it then, since you know what to do. Since you claim you don't need a man, fine. Handle your business, and we'll see how that works out by and by. But anyway, do not bother the United States and do not bother the Internal Revenue Service if you have not changed your status, your political status on all your documents, driver's license, birth certificate, on your job, passport agencies, United Nations, wherever your name is, Bureau of Vital Statistics in the state in which you were born. If you have not changed the status on paper, I ain't talking about what's coming out your mouth. I'm talking about literally on paper. If you have not changed your status, please do not bother the IRS. Do not. Do not do it. You're going to mess yourself up. I promise you. And let me tell you something about the IRS. Just like the FBI, they will watch you for several years. They will let you get all wrapped up in your madness, really. When the FBI knocks on your door, they have you dead to rights. They're not there to even see you. If they knock on your door, they have you dead to rights. And they will tell you straight up, we got you. We ain't worried about you. We want to see how many other people we can get. We want to see how many other people we can get. And that's when you start snitching. You start telling because you're trying to save your backside. See, I learned. See, I ain't know nothing about the taxes. I ain't know nothing about the taxes. Deputy Sheik, his brother over here, Deputy Sheik. Yeah, that's what it is. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was these people right here. It was these people right here. They the one. They jumped out there. It was these people. They the ones. They the ones taught me this stuff. I ain't know nothing about it. Liar. You on YouTube just gobbling up the videos. Come on now, don't be like that. Don't be like that. Take some personal responsibility. Because what I say, I can prove, as you're going to see in this demonstration that we're going to kick off right about now. Matter of fact, I need to open my demonstration up with this. Let me show you what I'm talking about. See this right here? The judicial branch of Arizona. You see that? That's not Moorish American National Republic. Huh? Let's be clear about that. That's not under the leadership of National Grand Sheik Joel Braden Bey in Baltimore. This is the judicial branch of Arizona, Maricopa County. Now, see, when you do it right, you should be able to do it just like this. This is how I put the government on notice. I'm like, look here. See my name right there, party's name? See it? See what it says? CSA, Social Security Administration, Internal Revenue Service, United States Bureau of Foreign Affairs, that would be the United Nations, and the U.S. Passport Agency, all of them are defendants. See all these affidavit of service, registered certified mail? That means the little greenbacks. I sent it back to them, and then I turned around, and once I got the little greenback back, I put that on the record as well. So there is absolutely no way that they do not understand that Thomas Muhammad Eel is in fact registered as a non-resident alien in their jurisdiction, because they have it in their hand. See what it is? See that notice of filing a foreign judgment? See, it's on the record. So, brother and sister, if you cannot do this in their jurisdiction, you better leave the IRS alone. You better leave them alone. You see, I sent my stuff to them, right? You do see them as a defendant. I'm gonna just leave it there. That's how I'm starting the demonstration, so that you will understand that what I am going to demonstrate in this demonstration, I have already done. So it don't make no sense for you to come back to me talking about, brother, it don't work. No, you don't work. It works just fine because I've already worked it. And here's a side note. I did not call our National Grand Sheikh before I did it. I did it, then I went and called him and said, hey, this is what I have done. And he said, and I quote, brother, you are going to be the subject of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is how I get down. This is how we should all get down, but I understand everybody don't necessarily have the same passion as I may have. Now, let me give a little talk with our brother Ian. Brother Ian, let me go over here. Let me see. Nope. Okay, I've closed it out. Let me get Brother Ian's. Brother Ian, I don't know Brother Ian. I don't know him personally. I know he sent, there was a email sent, okay, by Brother Ian to our town hall. And let me get rid of some of this. Brother Ian sent a question, here we go, into the town hall. Now, this is going to be addressed tomorrow in our town hall, but I feel I'm going to address it now. I'm going to let our National Grand Sheikh address it along with some of our other members tomorrow. I'm going to address it briefly today, right now. Brother Ian says, this is his question. Let me get it. This is my question for the forum, for the town hall call. What can be said from a Moorish perspective on the FedNow app that is coming out in July that is allegedly going to replace, eliminate all forms of paper currency globally, and gradually and slowly and even forcibly move everyone towards a digital online currency that is controlled by the central banks? A great question. So this is, Brother Ian is looking for a remedy. What can we do? The de facto government is trying to force everybody into getting rid of currency and whatnot. This is nothing new, Brother Ian, and brothers and sisters that may be watching this. This is nothing new. Where I think we get lost is we get lost in the name of the organizations. Let me give you an example. You see on the screen, I have BRICS. You may have heard of the Bilderberg Group. You may have heard of the Trilateral Commission. You may have heard of the Illuminati. You may have heard of the Council of 300. And I could just run the gamut of all these different organizations. But the bottom line is, no matter what the name of the organization is, the agenda has always been controlling the masses of the people. So in his monumental book, Zygmunt Brzezinski, in his book, The Grand Chessboard, he says it is much easier today to control 1 million people than to kill 1 million people. Because if you kill 1 million people, now you got the rest of the people up in arms, they screaming, they see it, they're going to do tremendous pushback. So now it is easier to control 1 million people. Well, how are we going to control 1 million people? We're going to control 1 million people by giving them, we're going to control the information that they hear, control the information that they see, thereby controlling their movements. As long as I got control of the information that I'm feeding you, I don't have to worry about what you're going to do. I already know what you're going to do before you do it. So I'm putting you in a box with the knowledge. So get knowledge, but with all thy gettings, get the understanding, for it is the principal thing. And that's what we're going to attempt to do today. We're going to share some knowledge with you, but what we need to do is comprehend the knowledge. That's what we need to do. So going back to Brother Ian's question, BRICS is an organization. I'm picking on them for a reason. BRICS is an organization, which is really an acronym that stands for nation states: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They are setting themselves up as an alternative to exiting international financial and political forums. So you should not get dismayed when you see and hear about the Europeans making these little maneuvers behind the scenes, you see. But I understand where the concern comes in is because we have all this currency in our possession. We got, those of us that got bank accounts, we got a few dollars in there, currency. Maybe we got a little safe at home and we got some currency in there. You understand? And that currency can be controlled by those who print the currency. So we are concerned, like, well, what am I going to do if they cut the printing machine off? It's a good question. That's a good question. We're going to deal with that. Okay, we're going to deal with that. And I don't care where you are on the planet, you're not going to get away from this. I don't care where you move, you're not going to get away. What we need is a remedy, something, some practical measures that we can do to protect ourselves. But what we really, underneath all that concern, is I really want something that shields me from everything. Do you really? Do you really? What's my favorite line? I'm getting ready to repeat it. Separation is the best and only solution. Separation is the best and only solution. Do you really want to be separated from the de facto United States government? Do you really want to be separated from those who are affectionately called white folks? Do you really want to be separated in a land and territory of your own that you control? Do you really want to be separated? Or are you just playing? Most of us are just playing. Because unfortunately, in order for us to physically separate, which would be a good thing, Unfortunately, those of us who are in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s will not live long enough to secure the benefit of this separate status. Will not. Our children will, and their children will definitely benefit. They'll be in a brand new reality. But the question is, we don't want to let go of the United States, because that would imply that we have to start over, and we don't want to start over, even though we have not made it here in this social construct called the United States. We have not made it and will not make it. So anyone holding out hope and expectancy that we're going to somehow pass some legislation, there are going to be some laws passed that will allow us to get into paradise at once, that's not going to happen. It is going to take work. Heaven is not a place where you go and sit down and lay down. Heaven is work. You see, it's work. But there is a reward at the end. But we don't want to put the work in. And this is why many of us are spending thousands of dollars for paperwork that don't work. And the people that are giving you the paperwork know it don't work. They're not giving you the machination. They're not telling you exactly how to do it. They're just giving it to you, and they're going, just go down to your local courthouse and put that on the record, and everything will be fine. Until you get stopped by the police, and then you got the paperwork, and you like, see right here, officer, but all the paperwork is in Latin. The officer don't read Latin, and neither do you. And maybe you do read Latin, but the person at the courthouse don't read Latin. So now what? You just stuck, and you paid thousands of dollars to do it. You didn't tell the people that were telling you to buy the paperwork, you didn't tell them, look, let me see your paperwork. Let me see where it got you some benefit. You didn't ask them for nothing like that. Because had you asked them that, they would have ran away from you. But you come to my platform, the Moorish Experience, I'm putting my paperwork in front of you on the screen. See? And we're going to talk about some benefits today, because that's another question we like. What's the benefit of being a Moorish American? What's the benefit of being a black person? Last time I checked in with the news, that wasn't a favorable position. What benefit have you gotten in the United States by being black? I'll wait. I'm waiting. What is it? Tell me one thing, one benefit you have gotten, one benefit you have received because you are a black person. Huh? Has the oppression stopped? No. Are you no longer required to pay taxes? No. Have you been compensated for your slave labor as a black person? No. What benefit have you gotten? Did you get free housing? Did they give you a car? No. What benefit do you have as identifying as a black person? Please tell me. I'm waiting. See, today gonna be truth or dare. Tell me, what benefit have you gotten? More grief, and more grief. Shot down on camera. And you say, well, I ain't been shot down. Yeah, but you glued to the TV watching somebody get shot down, watching somebody get stomped out, and psychologically, you know how to stay in your place, don't you? Don't you? That's exactly why they do it. That's the same way they did it back in the 1500s. We just hang a nigga from a tree and leave the body hanging there so that every quote unquote black person that ride by, you get to look at the brother or sister hanging from a tree. And it strikes absolute terror into you. Oh man, Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We gonna get off the sidewalk. So white folk come up with all kind of slave codes and laws that don't make no sense, and it worked because you scared to death. White boy, a child, 9 years old, European, little white boy, tell a grown man, get off the sidewalk, and you do it because you scared because you might get lynched. You said, I was back there in the 1500, brother. Ain't gonna work like that today. Ain't gonna work. You got your little gang signs. Oh, you tough. It don't work like that today? Liar. Yes, it do. Because all they got to do is send one squad car, just one, right on the block. White boy get out, he ain't more than 120 pounds, and he clear out the whole block. Yeah, that's what you do. And you know why you do that? Because you know on his hip, he got a few lives. One, he got a Motorola. That Motorola walkie-talkie, if he key that mic, every cop in the city will be there in a matter of minutes. You know it, I know it. He got a gun. He got a taser. He got pepper spray. He got a baton. He got all kind of weaponry. These types of weapons are not used for human beings. These are used for savages. That's how they view us, savages. Let me tell you what he don't have power to deal with. Truth. Watch this, brother and sister. Let me stop sharing for just a minute. Let me stop sharing for just a minute. Let me go over here. Let me show you something. Let's do a quick demonstration, shall we? Watch this. Watch this. Now, this is how most of us look. Let me do it like this. As quote unquote black people, this is how most of us look. Every day. You feel me? So there's a term in law called prima facie, on the surface of. Okay? At first glance. So at first glance, I look like the rest of the niggas. But when I do this, oh, this is going to give us a moment of pause, ain't it? This is going to give us a moment of pause. Because now he got to, wait a minute. Hold on. Because I haven't taught my customary Negroes to wear no headdresses. So now the light, he see, oh, okay, this one here must know something. So it's going to give him a moment of pause, so he got to start asking questions. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali told you, go to those that know law, approach them in an intelligent tone, and you will get a favorable reply. This is why you must study, study, study. This is why you cannot watch my demonstrations and think you're going to get smart. You must internalize what is coming out of our school of law and history, and you must ask yourself this most famous question. How does this information apply to me? And once you can demonstrate that, how does this information apply to me? Then when you are engaged in a conversation with those who are in quote unquote authorities and law enforcement, etc., then you can speak with an intelligent tone and back your open enemy right up. This is actual facts. See, that's why it is vital that you wear your national headdress wherever you go, if you can. Now, if you're working in construction, please don't wear your fez. Come on now. Don't do that. You see? But if you in an office job like myself, wear your fez. Keep everybody on their toes. Separate yourself from everybody else. But please have your demonstration game up, because I guarantee you some questions are coming to you. So now, let's get off into it. So how did we get in this mess in the first place? How did we get into this mess? Well, for the U.S. citizens, for all of those classified as a United States citizen, for all of those who have their citizenship through the 14th Amendment, for all of those who have a federal citizenship, for all of those who are like, no, I'm a citizen of the country, but you can't prove to me what law makes you a citizen. This is for you. Were you aware that the United States de facto government, meaning fake, filed bankruptcy? Were you aware of that? Were you aware that you have now been made a party to the bankruptcy with your U.S. citizenship? I know you're like, I've never heard that before. I know. That's why we're getting ready to get into it. So this is Republican James Traficant's U.S. bankruptcy speech in the House. You see, this is in the congressional record. So this is not my opinion. These are the actual facts. Whether you have heard about it before or not is irrelevant. This is actually what happened. And we're going to go through it. And we're going to, at the end of this, we're going to deal with a remedy on how we get out of it. And then we're going to call it a day. Mr. Speaker, we are here now in chapter 11. Well, if you know anything about the bankruptcy laws of the United States, when you file chapter 11 bankruptcy, that just means you are reorganizing your debts. And you're going through the courts and you are coming up with a structure on how to pay your debts. You need to pay your creditors back. But when you are in chapter 7 bankruptcy, that means, hey, my debts are being discharged and I don't have to pay them, but there's going to be a discharge. There's going to be a bankruptcy on your credit report. So you may have to rebuild your credit, etc. Now, some of us have gotten so sophisticated and evil that we file bankruptcy every 7 years. So we don't learn anything. We just keep repeating the same old thing over and over and over. Well, your representatives in Congress and in the Senate, as de facto, meaning fake as they may be, they think just like the citizenry. Yeah, just keep filing bankruptcy over and over and over again. Well, eventually this catches up with you and then it's too late. So, Mr. Speaker, we are here now in chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in the world history, the U.S. government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say it is a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. I am one of the people that say that. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March the 9th, 1933. This is on the record, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session, June the 5th, 1933. Joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolve the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. So if you've been listening to my demonstrations, you hear me use the term the de facto government. Well, here you have it. Departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. This is not my opinion. These are actual facts. Please get out your feelings. The receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers via the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. All United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status, meaning fake status, in name only, under the emergency war powers. With the constitutional Republican form of government, that would be Article 4, Section 4 of the Free National Constitution which states that all states shall be governed by a Republican form of government, now dissolved. That's a lie, because according to our illustrious Hebrew prophet, by filing a religious affidavit of organization on August the 1st, 1928 at 2:52 p.m., Prophet Noble Drew Ali set up a body politic in corporate and established a Republican form of government. And to the wise is sufficient. This new form of government is known as a democracy. Now you see how we went from a Republican form of government to a democracy. Also, these people established a government for the District of Columbia, which is called the United States. They did that with the Organic Act of 1871. I need you to lock in with me on that there. Okay. Now, just in case you thought I was playing, there it is. The United States Corporation Company. Just in case you thought I was playing, there it is. The Organic Act of 1871, approved February 21st, 1871. Be it enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, that all that part of the territory of the United States included within the limits of the District of Columbia be, and the same is hereby created into a government by the name of the District of Columbia, by which name it is hereby constituted a body corporate for municipal purposes, and may contract and be contracted with, sue and be sued, plead and be impleaded, have a seal, and exercise all other powers of a municipal corporation not inconsistent with the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the provisions of this act. So now we have two national governments in full effect. We have a free national government that Prophet Noble Drew Ali is talking about in his divine warning of 1928. And then we have the national government that is being maintained and is under the authority of Congress. Now the question becomes, which one are you a party to? So if you are a 14th Amendment citizen, if you are a U.S. citizen, if you have a federal citizenship, if you are a legal fiction, if you are a corporate entity, then you are under the District of Columbia, i.e., you are now under Congress. You have no rights, no birth rights, no inalienable rights, no divine rights. You don't have any. You are operating under a granted privilege, i.e., civil rights. And that's why your black leaders, that's all they can talk about is civil rights. Let's continue. Now, gold and silver were such a powerful money during the founding of the United States of America. Gold and silver is the only money. Paper, fiat currency is exactly what it is. Fiat currency. It ain't backed by nothing tangible. Therefore, it is debt. It is an instrument of debt. That's what it is. Gold and silver were such a powerful money during the founding of the United States of America that the founding fathers declared that only gold and silver coins can be money in America. Since gold and silver coinage were heavy and inconvenient for a lot of transactions, they were stored in banks, and a claim check was issued as a money substitute. People traded their coupons as money or currency. Currency is not money, but a money substitute. Redeemable currency must promise to pay a dollar equivalent in gold or silver. Federal Reserve notes make no such promise and are not money. A Federal Reserve note is a debt obligation of the federal United States government, not money. The federal United States government and the U.S. Congress were not and have never been authorized by the Constitution for the United States of America to issue currency of any kind, but only lawful money, gold and silver coin. Now, do you understand in Divine Warning of 1928 by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he kept referring to a free national government, free national republic, free national constitution, your free national name. He kept you having to put the word free there to make a very clear distinction between what he is talking about and what the de facto government is talking about. See? That is real, and we need to lock this into our brain. It is essential that we comprehend the distinction between real money and paper money, substitute. One cannot get rich by accumulating money substitutes. One can only get deeper into debt, and that is the problem. We the people no longer have any money. Most Americans have not been paid any money for a very long time, perhaps not in their entire life. Now do you comprehend why you feel broke? Now do you understand why you are bankrupt along with the rest of the country? Federal Reserve notes are unsigned checks written on a closed account. Federal Reserve notes are an inflatable paper system designed to create debt through inflation, and that is the devaluation of the currency. Whenever there is an increase in the supply of a money substitute currency in the economy without a corresponding increase in the gold and silver backing, inflation occurs, meaning that the cost of goods and services is steadily going up, but your wages are not. So therefore, your standard of living is coming down. This is reality. Get out of your feelings. Inflation is an invisible form of taxation that irresponsible governments inflict on their citizens. The Federal Reserve Bank, who controls the supply and movement of Federal Reserve notes, has everybody fooled. They have access to an unlimited supply of Federal Reserve notes, paying only for the printing costs of what they need. Federal Reserve notes are nothing more than promissory notes for U.S. Treasury securities, T-bills, a promise to pay the debt to the Federal Reserve Bank. Now, let me stop right there. We're going to come back to this in just a minute, but let me stop here for just a moment because I need to deal with how are you paying into this Federal Reserve system? You want to know. You either pay because you filled out one of these. Let me magnify it. You filled out an I-9. You filled out one of these. Or maybe you were sophisticated and you filled out one of these. You did one or the other. You filled out this or you filled out this. And whether you filled out this or whether you filled out this, they both came with an instruction sheet. Yes, they did. Right there. Instruction sheet. Now, many of you threw the instruction sheet in the trash because you grown, you're an adult. You don't need to read anything. You just start filling stuff out because you want your money. You want your tax return at the end of the year. I understand. That's all slaves can do is fill paperwork out and thereby enslave themselves. You're doing it to yourself. Because if you notice, when they handed you this, if you notice, when they handed you this, they didn't tell you how to fill it out. They did not tell you how to fill it out. You filled it out and then you put your signature right here. Okay. It says this form is not valid unless you sign it. See? Under penalties of perjury, I declare that this certificate, to the best of my knowledge and belief, is true, correct, and complete. You the one filled it out. You the one signed it. You took the instruction sheet and threw it in the trash. But oh boy, had you only read the purpose of the form. Anything that you purchase, brother, any product comes with an instruction manual. It tells you in the manual how to get the best life out of the product. It tells you in the manual how to operate the product to get the best results. But if you take the instruction manual and throw it in the trash, or put the instruction manual for your car in the glove box and you don't ever read it, and then you wondering why you having problems with your automobile, because you did not take the time to read the instructions. The manufacturer of the product put the instruction manual in there so that you could get the best bang for your buck. Purpose of the form: complete Form W-4 so that your employer can withhold the correct federal income tax from your pay. You need to stop right there. Complete Form W-4 so that your employer can withhold the correct federal income tax from your pay. But if you, first of all, you're not being paid income. That's the first thing you need to understand. That's the first thing you need to understand. You are not being paid income when you go to work for somebody else. You are being paid a wage. This says in black and white: complete Form W-4 so that your employer can withhold the correct federal income tax from your pay. Continue to read. If too little is withheld, you will generally owe tax when you file your tax return and may owe a penalty. If too much is withheld, you will generally be due a refund. We like that part. Complete a new Form W-4 when changes to your personal or financial situation would change the entries on the form. You know, like when you proclaim your nationality and you annex your nil and your ill and your bay to the family slave name. You mean changes like that. You mean changing jurisdictions, going from the United States jurisdiction over to the Republican form of government, the free national government. You mean like that. You mean like in symbolism, where we go from the right side of your dollar bill, from under the eagle, we come out from under the eagle and we go under the pyramid in terms of government seal. You mean like that? Okay. For more information on withholding and when you must furnish a new Form W-4, you can check the publication out, 505. Now, see what this says? Let me scroll up here, right here. Exemption from withholding. You may claim exemption from withholding for 2021 if you meet both of the following conditions. You had no federal income tax liability in 2020, and you expect to have no federal income tax liability in 2021. Now you like, brother, that's an old form. I know. So let me get you a current form. How about now? You feel better now? Do you feel better? See, I got you. Do you feel better now? Is this the current year we in? Good. Okay, so let's go down to the instruction sheet. You're going to see it's the same instruction. Let me magnify once again. See it? Here we go again. If you meet both of the following conditions, you had no federal income tax liability for 2022, and you expect to have no federal income tax liability in 2023. If you had no federal income tax liability in 2022, if number one, your total tax on line 24 on your 2022 Form 1040 or 1040 SR is 0 or less than the sum of lines 27, 28, and 29, or number two, you are not required to file a return because your income was below the filing threshold for your correct filing status. Let's read that again. Or point number two, you were not required to file a return because your income was below the filing threshold for your correct filing status. Well, I don't know, but I know this. I know if you're working on a job, punching a time clock, you're not being paid any income because the lawful definition of income is anything derived from gains, investments, etc. That's income. Wages is when you trade time for dollars. That is what we call compensation. This is not a wage form. This is an income tax form. So I don't know. Did you get income or did you get wages? But of course, you didn't look anything up. You don't know the difference and you don't care. So you just filling out paperwork and enslaving yourself. They're taking your money and you're doing it to yourself. Now, here we go. If you claim exemption, you will have no income tax withheld from your paycheck and may owe taxes and penalties when you file your 2023 tax return. To claim exemption from withholding, certify that you meet both of the conditions above by writing exempt on Form W-4 in the space below. Step 4C. Then complete steps 1A, 1B, and 5. Do not complete any other steps. See why it's important to read the document? This is what it is. This is not my document. This is the United States Treasury document. But you see the steps, you see what's going on. So now don't get out here and be like, okay, I'm going to my job Monday morning. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to just go ahead and get away from doing all of this here. But you ain't changed your status in the system. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. You're going to hurt yourself. Don't do that. See? See? Why am I saying that? My stuff look like this. All of this was on the record before I even dealt with the IRS. I dealt with the IRS twice in terms of paperwork. But if your stuff don't look like this, if you can't prove this, the IRS gonna check. I promise you they're gonna check. I sent them a correspondence. It took them 6 months to get me my green back, my little green card, certified mail card back. They took their time looking up my stuff. So you should expect them to check and make sure that your political status is changed on all of your documents: birth certificate, driver's license, passport, Social Security Administration, DMV, motor vehicle, Bureau of Vital Statistics in the state that you was born in. They went back and checked it all to see if I was in fact a U.S. citizen or was I outside of their jurisdiction. That's how they roll. And if they could have found that I was in fact a U.S. citizen or I had done a misstep somewhere, oh, they'd have ate me alive. but such is not the case because I actually follow instructions. Now, just in case you thought I was playing, because you hear me talking about these instructions, when you take the oath of amnesty and reconstruction, and that is administered by National Grand Sheik, and you have graduated the School of Law and History, you took the oath, and then we mail out your paperwork to you. This instruction sheet is with the paperwork. You see what it says? First things to do after naturalization, the process by which one acquires nationality after birth and becomes entitled to the privileges of citizenship. First things to do after you complete that process: read, proof all documents for correctness, completeness, having all documents, understanding documents, having a good working knowledge of the paperwork. Why is it necessary to have a good working knowledge of the paperwork? Because when you hand somebody the paperwork at these governmental de facto agencies, they may ask you some questions. Yep. They may ask you some questions, and you must be able to demonstrate the paperwork is your paperwork. Why wouldn't you be able to demonstrate your paperwork? I know one reason why you wouldn't be able to demonstrate your paperwork is because you don't talk your paperwork. You do not talk Moorish science. You do not talk free national government. You do not talk the naturalization process. You are more concerned about getting out of whatever current situation you find yourself in. So everything is a red and blue pill to you. Everything is cup of noodle. Just pour some water on it, hot water on it, and instantly, voila, you have a meal, even though it's been freeze dried for 1,000 years. That's not how this works, brother and sister, but anyway. So you read the instruction sheet and you follow the instruction sheet to the letter. You do not jump around and, well, I'm gonna go to DMV first because it's right down the street from my house. I'm gonna go there first with my paperwork and then get yourself all messed up. You see what it says? Let's look at it. It tells you step by step what to do. Sign your oath of amnesty in blue ink only on the signature line. Make a copy of the 3 documents listed below. Certificate of registration, oath of amnesty, signed in blue ink only. Affidavit of live birth declaration, notarize this document. Mail above 3 colored documents to the National Registrar upon receipt of these documents by the National Registrar's office. Now you are part of the Moorish National Bureau of Vital Statistics. Not before then. Not before then. When you do step 4, then you are registered in the Moorish National Bureau of Vital Statistics. Now, but you ain't complete. It ain't complete. You still got to take it. Got to sign the back of your nationality card, and you got to take your paperwork down to the courthouse and proclaim your nationality, meaning you got to make it widely known, publicly known, widely spread through governmental authority. Until you do that, you're dead in the water. Yeah. Until you do that, you are dead in the water. Now, you can get your own instruction sheet in your own packet. I don't have time to go through all of that, so we're going to close it out. Okay, now let's get back over here with this bankruptcy. So now, there is a fundamental difference between paying and discharging a debt. To pay a debt, you must pay with value or substance, i.e. gold, silver, barter, or a commodity. With Federal Reserve notes, you can only discharge a debt. You cannot pay a debt with a debt currency system. You cannot service a debt with a currency that has no backing in value or substance. No contract in common law is valid unless it involves an exchange of good and valuable consideration. Unpayable debt transfers power and control to the sovereign power structure that has no interest in money, law, equity, or justice because they have no such wealth. They have so much wealth already. Their lust is for power and control. Since the inception of central banking, they have controlled the fates of nations. So going back to our question that is on the floor, how do we get out of this? You see, get it in gold and silver. They don't control gold and silver. That's God's money. That's God's money. It came from the earth. It doesn't lose value. It has intrinsic value. Give you an example. 1 ounce of gold today is close to 2,000 currency Federal Reserve notes today. 1 ounce. It has not lost, gold has not lost its intrinsic value. 2,000 years ago, 1 ounce of gold would have got you a nice toga, if you will, a nice handmade leather belt, a nice pair of sandals. You understand? That's what 1 ounce of gold would have got you 2,000 years ago. Today, 1 ounce of gold gets you a nice made suit, pair of shoes, and a belt. The 1 ounce of gold has not lost its intrinsic value. I don't care how much currency they print. Just an example, a hint to the wise is sufficient. The Federal Reserve System is based on the canon law and the principles of sovereignty protected in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. In fact, the international bankers use a canon law trust as their model, adding stock and naming it a joint stock trust. The U.S. Congress has passed a law making it illegal for any legal person to duplicate a joint stock trust in 1873. The Federal Reserve Act was legislated post facto to 1870, although post facto laws are strictly forbidden by the Constitution. The Federal Reserve System is a sovereign power structure separate and distinct from the federal United States government. The Federal Reserve is a maritime lender and or maritime insurance underwriter to the federal United States, operating exclusively under admiralty and maritime law. The lender or underwriter bears the risk, and the maritime law compelling specific performance and paying the interest or premiums are the same. And you're like, I don't understand what that means. I'm gonna tell you in just a minute. Assets of a debtor can also be authenticated to pledge something as a security without taking possession of it as security by the lender or underwriter. The Federal Reserve Act stipulated that the interest on the debt was to be paid in gold. There was no stipulation in the Federal Reserve Act for ever paying the principal. So if you're paying just the interest, and you do understand that the interest is a lot bigger than the principal. If all you're doing is paying the interest on the loan, how are you ever going to get out of debt? You ain't, because you're not paying the principal down. That's like you buying a car and you just keep making the monthly payments. The majority of your money is going to the interest, not the principal. So it's going to take you 7, 8, 9, 10 years to pay off a car that is losing value every day. You are now what is called upside down. You have more debt than you can actually sell that car for. It's not worth what you paid for. You're upside down. If you understand that principle with your car, if you understand that principle with your home, your mortgage, then you should understand that in the national life of this country in terms of principal, and interest payments. In return, the Federal Reserve System agreed to extend the Federal United States Corporation all the credit money substitute it needed. Like any other debtor, the Federal United States government had to assign collateral and security to their creditors as a condition of the loan. So now they want collateral. So what collateral could the United States corporation, who is borrowing all this currency, this fiat currency, this fake money, what collateral could they secure the loan with? The U.S. citizen. You can take everything they own if we default on the loan. Take all their possessions. You didn't know that was going on behind the scenes, did you? Since the federal United States didn't have any assets, they assigned the private property of their economic slaves, the U.S. citizens, as collateral against the unpayable federal debt. Were you aware of that, brother and sister? It don't matter whether you Asiatic or European. This is what it is. So when we tell you that you are a United States citizen based on the 14th Amendment, I want you to really understand what you done tied yourself on to. And when we tell you, and Prophet Noble Drew Ali has instructed you with his divine authority, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality. We are trying to get you away from the madness, but you holding on for dear life because you got a psychological effect and chain to this information. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they must know that they are part and parcel of this said government. Said in law means that which was before, a republican form of government. And know that they are not Negroes, 14th Amendment citizens, colored folks, U.S. citizens, black people, federal citizenship, or Ethiopians, corporate entities, because these names were given to the slaves by the slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. Prophet Noble Drew Ali did not say these names were given to the slaves by the slaveholders in 1779 and ended in 1865 during the time of slavery. He says slavery lasted. Go look that up in a law dictionary and see what that means. I need you to understand this. I need you to understand this. I'm not making this up. This is actual fact. Unwittingly, America has returned to its pre-American Revolution feudal roots, whereby all land is held by a sovereign and the common people have no rights to hold allodial title, which means true title to property. Once again, we the people are the tenants and sharecroppers renting our own property from a sovereign in the guise of the Federal Reserve Bank. We the people have exchanged one master for another. I need you to understand that. This has been going on for over 80 years without the informed knowledge of the American people, without a voice protesting loud enough. Now it's easy to grasp why America is fundamentally bankrupt. I'm just saying. So, if and when you fill out one of these, or you fill out one of these, or maybe you fill out a current one of these, then you are now paying money into the Federal Reserve. See what it says on the documents? Let me show you where this comes from. See what it says? Voluntary withholding agreement. Voluntary withholding agreement. Let's magnify, because you ain't gonna believe nothing I say with your scared to death self. Let's deal with it. Section 31.342, page 1, voluntary withholding agreement. This is the Internal Revenue Tax Code. In general, an employee and his employer may enter into an agreement under Section 3402B to provide for the withholding of income tax upon payments of amounts described in paragraph B1 of Section 31.3401A-3. You understand? Income tax. I just told you, if you work on a job and punch a time clock, you're trading time for dollars. You're not getting paid an income. Income is derived from gains, stocks, bonds, selling of real estate, investments. That's what an income is. Money being generated from a business. That's what income is. If you are an employee, if you are getting a salary, then you are receiving a wage. People who earn wages are not required under normal circumstances to file an income tax. Let me come at it another way. None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. It is hard as heck to tell Black people that they are not free because they have drunk the Kool-Aid and they actually believe because they're not walking around with chains. You say, well, things are much better today. You know, I don't understand why the brother is so angry. Why all the rage? What's his problem? Because you still enslaved. Matter of fact, that's the best kind of slavery, where you can't see the chain. Let me put it to you this way. They have right now, for those that have pets, particularly dogs, they have what is called an invisible fence. An invisible fence. And with the invisible fence, there is a dog collar. So they come out and they put little sensors around your property, and the dog is to wear a special dog collar that if he gets to the property line and the sensors pick up, oh, the dog is coming close to the property line, it sends an electric shock to the collar. Just a little bit to let the dog know, don't go any further. It's called an invisible fence. Can't see it. The dog got eyes just like you do. He doesn't see anything physically in front of him. He doesn't. You see? How do I know that? Because I have a dog. And I was thinking about, well, let me get an invisible fence. That'd be kind of neat. You know what I'm saying? I put that, spent a few dollars and put that up, and my dog can go outside and do his business, and I don't have to worry about him getting out until I studied my dog. See, my dog is a natural dog, and the natural dog has a natural enemy. You know what I'm saying? The dogs like to chase cats. My dog love to chase a cat. A cat don't have a chance around my dog at all. At all. Oh man, my dog go ballistic when he see a cat. So I started to ask the people, I said, what happens if the dog, runs after, he sees something and it startles him and he runs? Oh no, the fence, it'll shock him. It'll shock him. I say, well, what? See, you got to understand the nature of things. I said, but what happens if he see a cat and he is intent on getting that cat? that little shock that he getting ready to get, he gonna run. He gonna run right through that. He gonna run right by that. That ain't gonna bother him because there's nothing physically holding him. And he gonna get the cat. Can you imagine me going into court? My dog and got a hold of somebody's cat, and I go into the court and tell the judge, well, Your Honor, I shouldn't be held liable because I paid money and these people put up an invisible fence and their product didn't work, and that's why the cat is dead. Woo, that dog don't hunt. That ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. Because you're an intelligent man. You know what's going on. You got to understand the nature of things. Why am I saying that? Because you have been told that taxes are lawful. And in some instances, they are. It depends on your situation. It's not my situation, but it depends on your situation. I don't know what you got going on in your life. I really don't. And I'm not going to ask you what you got going on in your life because most of you lie. You only going to tell me what you want me to know. So I'm going to continue with my demonstration. So since we are paying these taxes, okay, and these taxes are debt, let's deal with it. Let me show you something that you may have never seen before either. Now, you see, I show you on their document, see, they put stuff on the document so that they can have plausible deniability. What do you mean plausible deniability? So when you start talking about taxes are illegal and, you know, I'm paying too much in income tax, et cetera, they're going to refer you to the document with your signature on it. Where there says employee signature, they're gonna be like, you didn't read this part down here where it said that it was voluntary. You didn't read that part. And for those that are thinking I'm breaking the law and getting away with something, it says voluntary withholding agreement. These ain't my documents. These documents did not come from our organization. These are the IRS documents. I just read the documents. And then the sad part is when I tell people, I turn it back in blank with my signature on it, and they go, well, sir, you didn't fill it out. I say, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Or I put the word exempt in the proper place, and they like, well, sir, you didn't make any withholdings. The document is correct. All of a sudden now the person feel like I done got away with something. No, I just know how to read and implement what I read. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let me show you this. Oh boy, getting ready to curl somebody's socks. I want somebody to explain this to me. I'm gonna explain this. You ever seen this? Has anybody ever seen this? This is the United States debt clock. This is tracking the debt of the United States in real time. I want you to understand that. In real time, you see the numbers are just rolling. Look at the U.S. national debt. Let me read that for you. 32 trillion with a T, 275 billion, 102 million dollars in national debt. And then I want you to move to the right in the green section where it says U.S. federal tax revenue. U.S. federal tax revenue. 4,698,420,000,630, 40, 50, and counting thousand. That's how much money they taking in taxes. Now, wait a minute. If we took in 4 trillion in taxes, corporate tax, state tax, federal tax, etc. If we took in 4 trillion in federal tax from 350 million US citizens, but the debt is 32 trillion. How you going to balance that budget? Think about what I said to you. The federal income tax is supposed to pay off the national debt. The IRS only took in $4 trillion in federal taxes. But the US debt is 32 trillion and counting. Don't you see it still moving as I'm talking to you? How is the country going to pay that debt? Now, some silly person will say, just print more currency. It is the printing of the currency that is causing the hidden tax called inflation. The only thing that's going up is the taxes, the debt, but your wages at your job ain't moved. But the cost of goods and services keep going up. That's why gas is more expensive now. That's why food is more expensive now. That's why rent is more expensive now. That's why paying for things on credit with credit cards is more expensive now, because the debt keeps rising. And tied to the debt and the overprinture of currency, i.e. paper dollars, fiat currency that is backed by nothing intrinsic or valuable, is what is causing all of this to spiral out of control. You understand? Do you see the debt per taxpayer? Do you see the debt per citizen? $96,336. That means you, and then look to your left, look to your right, look to your neighbor, look in front of you, look behind you, look at the people on your job. Every one of those US citizens has a personal debt of $96,336 that is owed to the national federal government in terms of debt. I ain't talking about your credit cards. I ain't talking about your mortgage. I ain't talking about your car loan. I ain't talking about none of that. Your student loans. I ain't talking about none of that. This is just at the federal national level. You know, the US corporation. You know, the same people that told you you're a US citizen, I want you to see what you're responsible for. But this is not the most telling. That's disturbing. US national debt is very disturbing, $32 trillion. Very disturbing. But let me show you something that's even more disturbing than that. Let's go down here to the bottom right-hand corner. Because I know some of y'all are real smart. Y'all say, well, look, man, whatever. Okay, let's come down here to the bottom right-hand corner. This is what the United States government is responsible for in terms of paying out. Because, you know, Social Security benefits, pension plans, retirements, 401ks, you know, IRAs, Roth IRAs, you know, annuities, certificates of deposit, this stuff they promise to pay. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. So my question to you is this. When you add all this up down here in the bottom right, look what it says down in the bottom right-hand corner. U.S. unfunded liabilities. That would be your Social Security, pension plans, Section 8 housing, food stamps, EBT cards, Social Security, benefits, things like that. Government programs promise to pay. Look at the number. what does it say? 191 trillion, 880 billion, 271 million and counting. She can't pay that number. She can't even come close to that. Look at what she took in taxes, only 4 billion. And the national debt, 4 trillion she took in. And the national debt is 32 trillion. And she promises what she owes in terms to her citizenry is 191 trillion. When we add all that up, 191 trillion. You do understand that if you run your household budget like this, you will be bankrupt in a matter of days. I'm just leaving it. I'm going to leave it right here so you can look at it. I'm going to leave it right here so you can look at it. I like to give you stuff that grabs your attention. I like to give you stuff that grabs your attention in real time. This is not real as long as I've been talking. Look, it ain't slowed down. It's just running. It is just running. It's running while we sleep. It's running during the day. It's running on holidays. It never takes a break. So when you hear these demons called politicians talking about the Great Reset, that ain't where it's at. You ain't going to reset this. This has to crash. It has to stop. And then we have to spend about 3 to 4 years resetting everything over again. But that's going to be a painful, painful experience. A lot of people going to lose their life. A lot of people going to be homeless. A lot of people going to starve. It's reality. Because the country is used to just printing currency. So when it becomes ground zero, meaning that now you have to make life decisions because the US dollar has no value at all. Now we got to make life decisions. I just got paid. Do I go get gas and put it in my car? Or do I go get groceries? And I got about 10 minutes to make that decision. I cannot do both. And for those that think this is some wild-eyed conspiracy theory, let me give you a few countries that you can go look at. Venezuela, Greece. Go look at those economies. You see, Zimbabwe. Go look at them economies and see what happened when they overprinted currency that was backed by nothing, and see what the condition of those countries are today. Just food for thought. A hint to the wise is sufficient. Brother Ian want to know how we get out of this. That's what he wanted to know. What we gonna do? Let's talk about it. But first, before I go there, Brother Ian, I gotta talk to these Moors that are on YouTube yelling and instructing our people in a most terrible way. So we're gonna jump around. Again, we talking about the bankruptcy of the United States. Okay. The fact of the matter is the United States did go bankrupt in 1933 and was declared so by President Roosevelt by Executive Orders 6073, 6102, 6111, and by Executive Order 6260 on March 9th, 1933, under the Trading with the Enemy Act of October 6, 1917, as amended by the Emergency Banking Relief Act, 48 Statute 1, Public Law Number 1, which is presently codified at 12 United States Code 95A and confirmed at 95B. You can confirm this for yourself by reading it on Fine Law. Thereafter, Congress confirmed the bankruptcy on June the 5th, 1933, and thereupon impaired the obligations and considerations of contracts through the joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause June the 5th, 1933. So what is actually happening? They're actually taking and confiscating the gold of the citizenry, because gold is money, currency is not. anyway. Okay. When the courts were called upon to rule on various of the provisions designed to implement and complement Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Emergency Banking Relief Act of March 9, 1933, they were all found unconstitutional. So what Franklin Delano Roosevelt did was simply stack the courts, talking about the Supreme Court, with his chosen members of the bench, bar, and then sent many of the cases back through and reversed the rulings. So you see, we were working under common law, and they said, no. We can't do this because it's unconstitutional, but we need to substantiate and tie the U.S. citizens to this debt. You understand? You feel me? We need to tie the U.S. citizens to this debt. So when I tell you to proclaim your nationality and you go and log into our town hall every Sunday, and we talking about this disclaimer where it's talking about the bankruptcy of the United States, we read it every week. This is what we talking about. Because we read it, you hear it, but you don't understand the significance of it. So I decided, let me put the debt clock up here so you can actually look at the numbers, how they just rolling. How they just rolling. Okay, let's keep it moving. So now, let's get it. You're going to love where this is going. All right, let's pick it up one more time. Now, I need you to understand this. House Joint Resolution 192 was passed by Congress on June the 5th, 1933. An act impaired the obligations and considerations of contracts and declared that the notes of the Federal Reserve banks were legal tender. If you take out the currency in your pocket and read it, it will tell you it's legal tender right on it. For the payment of both public and private debts, and the payment in gold coin was against public policy. In effect, Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Congress, under executive orders and legislative fiat, nationalized the people's money. Hello? Nationalized. They put it under the control of the government. Nationalized. So for all of you Moors on YouTube nationalizing our people, you are tying them to the debt. You are making them responsible for the debt. You are making them responsible for this. I don't care what you say out your mouth. It is not how you feel. It is what we can prove. Nationalization is a violation of the law of nations and existing public policy of Congress. See Hilton versus Guyot. The gold coin that was confiscated, nationalized, was later used to purchase voting stockholder shares in the bank and the fund at $35 an ounce, which was the price of an ounce of gold back then. At this point, in fair market value, i.e. a willing seller and buyer without compulsion, lost any substantial meaning. Now, moreover, all the governors of the several states of the Union who were summoned to and were in Washington, D.C. during the several days of this pre-planned economic emergency, the first phase of which was to nationalize and expropriate the people's money, i.e. their gold coin on deposit in the banks, pledged the full faith and credit thereof to the aid of the national government. Wow. So as I mentioned in the previous document, the U.S. citizen, those identifying, clinging to names and principles that delude to slavery and that are identified as U.S. citizens, are tied now to the debt, the national debt, which is at $32 trillion and counting. Pay attention, Mose. The Council of State Governments has been absorbed into such things as the National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws. Uniform state laws, what would that be? That would be the Uniform Commercial Code. That would be statutory laws that are passed by the legislature of your state. whose headquarters is located in Chicago, Illinois, and all being members of the bar. So they're all attorneys and operating under a different constitution. In effect, we have two national governments in existence. We have the national government, and then we have the free national government. We have the Constitution, and then we have the free national Constitution. See, they're operating under a different constitution and bylaws. You thought Prophet Noble Drew Ali was set tripping when he told you about the free national constitution in his warning of 1920 and 8. Let's see what Great White Father is talking about. Far distant from the depositories of the public records, and it is this organization that has promulgated, lobbied for, passed, adjudicated, and ordered the implementation and execution of their purported uniform and model acts, i.e., the Uniform Commercial Code, and pretended statutory provisions. The Uniform Commercial Code is statutory law, and as I have already told you, statutory law does not apply to human beings. It only applies to corporate entities, legal fictions, people who are clinging to names and principles that delude to slavery, people who identify with names such as Negro, Black, Colored, African American, Ethiopian, etc. Those individuals. This applies to you. This right here. Let's keep it moving. 32 trillion and counting. Let's keep it going. Now, I know you like, no, that ain't what's happening. I get it. So I done went into the archives and pulled it out for you. In order for you to understand just how this fraud works, you need to know the history of its inception. It goes like this. From 1928 to 1932, there were 5 years of Geneva Convention. The nations of the world met in Geneva, Switzerland for 5 consecutive years in order to set up what would be the policy of all the participating countries. During the year of 1930, the United States, Great Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, etc., all declared bankruptcy. This is a worldwide phenomenon. If you try to look up the 1930 minutes, you will not find them because they don't publish this particular volume. Okay, let's go. Going into 1932, they stopped meeting in Geneva. In 1932, Franklin Roosevelt came into power as president of the United States. Roosevelt's job was to put into place and administer the bankruptcy that had been declared 2 years earlier. Oh, you mean this? This. Let's keep it moving. The corporate United States government. Stop right there. Corporate United States. Let's deal with that. Hold on. Corporate United States. Let me deal with it. Let me find it. Let me get it back up here. This. This. Being enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled that all that part of the territory of the United States included within the limits of the District of Columbia be, and the same is hereby created into a government. Oh, you mean this, the Organic Act of 1871, thereby putting a government in the District of Columbia, and we're going to call it the government that was put in the District of Columbia. We're going to call it the United States. Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure I was getting that right. Okay, let us continue. So now, this corporate United States government had to have a legal case on the books to set the stage for recognizing, implementing, and supporting the bankruptcy. Now, it doesn't mean that the bankruptcy wasn't implemented before 1938 with the Erie versus Tompkins decision. The bankruptcy started in 1930 to 1931. The bankruptcy definitely started when Roosevelt came into office. He was sworn in during the month of January 1933. He started right away into bankruptcy with what is known as the banking holiday. So he's starting to confiscate the gold from the citizenry and proceeded in pulling the gold coin out of circulation. That was the beginning of the corporate United States public policy for bankruptcy. Executive Orders 6073, 6102, 6111, and Executive Order 6260, Trading with the Enemies Act. Is this starting? I done gave you 3 sources, and they all saying the same thing. It must have really went down this way. So now Roosevelt stacks the Supreme Court. The same language is being used. It is a known historical fact that during 1933 and 1937 to 1938, there was a big fight between Roosevelt and the Supreme Court justices. Roosevelt tried to stack the Supreme Court with a bunch of his pals. Roosevelt tried to enlarge the number of justices, and he tried to change the slant of the justices. The corporate United States had to have one Supreme Court case which would support their bankruptcy problem. There was resistance to Roosevelt's court stacking efforts. Some of the justices tried to warn us that Roosevelt was tampering with the law and with the courts. Roosevelt was trying to see to it that prior decisions of the court were overturned. He was trying to bring in a new order, a new procedure for the law of the land. So what do you mean he was trying to overturn these previous decisions? Let's get to that. Let's see what he was talking about right here. Right here in Pollock versus Farmers Loan and Trust Company. The Supreme Court rules that general income taxes are unconstitutional because they are unapportioned direct taxes. To this day, the ruling has not been overturned. 1895. Hold on. January 24th, 1916, in Brushherbert versus Union Pacific Railroad, the Supreme Court ruled that the 16th Amendment, now this is what brought the Internal Revenue Service into existence in 1914. The Supreme Court ruled that the 16th Amendment doesn't overrule the court's ruling in the Pollock case, which declared general income taxes unconstitutional. The 16th Amendment applies only to gains and profits. Remember I said that earlier? Gains and profits from commercial and investment activities. The 16th Amendment only applies to excises taxes. The 16th Amendment did not amend the U.S. Constitution. The 16th Amendment only clarified the federal government's existing authority to create excise taxes without apportionment. Now, you say, I don't understand. We're going to get into understanding. Let's get over here. Hold on. Now, let's get over here. After interest payments and governmental waste, not one penny collected from the tax on your labor pays for the services you expect from government. The Constitution allows for 2 types of taxes, direct and indirect. A direct tax must be apportioned. Apportion means to divide equally amongst the people. Now, you already know that these taxes are not apportioned. Thereby, if it's not apportioned, then they are unconstitutional. The indirect tax is an excise tax. Now, we just talked about excise taxes over here from the United States Supreme Court. The 16th Amendment, okay, applies only to gains and profits from the commercial and investment activities. The 16th Amendment only applies to excises taxes. The 16th Amendment only applies to excise taxes. The 16th Amendment only applies to excise taxes. The indirect tax is an excise tax. Things you can avoid. Things you can avoid. Example, gasoline tax. I can choose not to drive my car to avoid that tax. Tax on tobacco, cigarettes. I can avoid that tax. I can choose not to smoke. All indirect taxes must be the same, uniform throughout all the states. You know all them taxes ain't uniform throughout all the states. Income means a corporate profit, not wages. People who work on jobs and punch time clocks are getting paid wages, not income. Income comes from gains. Chief among such contracts is that of personal employment, by which labor and other services are exchanged for money or other forms of property. Supreme Court case, Coppage versus Kansas, 236, United States, 114, in the year 1914. Do you see why FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, had to stack the Supreme Court with his buddies? Because he was trying to get all this overturned so that we can tie all the U.S. citizens to the debt, which is now 34 trillion and counting. The Supreme Court said your labor is your private property. The United States, hold on, don't want to cooperate. Getting too hot. Getting too hot. The Supreme Court said your labor is your private property. The United States Constitution strictly forbids a direct unapportioned tax on the wages and salaries of American citizens. The United States Supreme Court has consistently ruled that the income tax is a tax on profits and gains, not on labor and wages. Again, the United States Supreme Court has consistently ruled that the income tax is a tax on profits and gains, not on labor and wages. Get out of your feelings. It is not about how you feel. It is about what we can prove. Let's keep it moving. Oh, let's not keep it moving. Let's move on. How about that? Let's back to our regular scheduled program. See? I'm dealing with you. Now, the corporate United States goes bankrupt. A bankruptcy case was needed on the books to legitimize the fact that the corporate United States had already declared bankruptcy. This bankruptcy was effectuated by compact and the corporate several states had with the corporate government. This would be that government in the District of Columbia. This compact tied the corporate several states to the corporate Washington, D.C., the headquarters of the corporation called the United States. I've already shown you that documentation. Now, so if you've ever wondered when you call into our town hall or our Sunday school, or you're talking and you hear the brothers and sisters call in and they say, "This is Deputy Sheikh Thomas Muhammad Ill calling in from the Arizona Republic," not calling in from the state of Arizona. The state of Arizona is the corporate entity that has tied itself on to the District of Columbia through compact. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. That's why we don't say the state of Arizona. We say the Arizona Republic, because the Arizona Republic is the land. The corporate entity called the state of Arizona is actually sitting on Washington Street right now, downtown, 19th Avenue in Washington here in Arizona Republic. That's the state of Arizona. That's where the state capital is. Everything outside of that is the Arizona Republic. But if you don't know that, if you don't think like that, if you don't know that, then you will just say things, thereby enslaving yourself. Now, let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. So the corporate United States then is the head corporate member who met at Geneva to decide for all of its corporate body members. The corporate representatives of the corporate several states were in attendance. If the states had their own power to declare bankruptcy, regardless of whether Washington, D.C. declared bankruptcy or not, then the several states would have represented at Geneva. The several states of America were not represented. Consequently, whatever Washington, D.C. agreed to at Geneva was passed on automatically via compact to the several corporate states as a group, association, corporation, or as a club member. They all agreed and declared bankruptcy as one government corporate group in 1930. I want you to understand, you're not going to get out of this by talking. The several states only needed a representative at Geneva by way of the United States in Washington, D.C. The delegates of the corporate United States attended the meetings and spoke for the several corporate states as well as for the federal corporate government. And presto, bankruptcy was declared for everybody. It's really that simple. See, it's really that simple. And that's why it's the state of Arizona, the state of Florida, the Commonwealth of Maryland, etc., etc. See, Uniform Commercial Code emerges as the law of the land. Now, this is the Moore's claim to fame. You got to nationalize everybody. We already showed you where that's against the law. You were talking about the UCC this and the UCC that. So now you're trying to use the Uniform Commercial Code that the federal government is actually using to uphold the bankruptcy. You are now trying to use the UCC as a way to give our people a remedy. Don't you understand that the Uniform Commercial Code is statutory law? Don't you understand that? Don't you understand that the United States is a corporate entity? Don't you understand that? Don't you understand that by putting this government in the District of Columbia, they have now got everybody contracting with this entity called the United States? Don't you get that? Don't you understand what you're really doing to our people? Or maybe you understand, but you don't care because you know our people are ignorant and you can make a lot of money. Maybe that's what your end game is. But let me show you, because I've said this statement about 3 times here this evening, and now I'm going to show it to you in black and white because I don't want no mistake whatsoever. And again, this is the United States Supreme Court. That way you can understand it ain't me, brother and sister. I don't know why you got your lips poked out at me, got your face all scrunched up. You know, emotional outbursts are not going to fix me. You're going to have to come with the actual facts. You're not going to be able to, you know, just yell out and think that's going to get me off the platform. You understand? It's not going to work. I'm going to show you why it ain't going to work. The word person is used in many laws. If you don't know what the term means, you might think that you are one of these. So now I'm going to jump right down here. You see what it says right here? American Law and Procedure, Volume 30, 13, page 137. This was in 1910. Look at what it says. A person is here not a physical or individual person, but the status or condition with which he is invested. Not an individual or physical person, but the status, condition, or character borne by physical persons. The law of persons is the law of status or condition. So, what is the political status of Black people? What is the political status of African Americans? What is the political status of those who are clinging to names and principles that delude to slavery? People are not persons. On the next page, you will read legal definitions of the word person. As you will see, persons are defined as non-sovereigns. A sovereign is someone who is not subject to statutes. The Uniform Commercial Code is a statute. The state laws that are passed in your state are statutes. Arizona revised statutes, Florida revised statutes, the Commonwealth of XYZ, you can fill in the blanks. Those are statutes. A person is someone who voluntarily submits himself to statutes. We in the Moorish Science Temple, the Divine and National Movement of North America, are not sovereigns. We are not sovereigns. We are members of a sovereign body politic and corporate. That's who we are. We are not sovereigns. This is the sovereign. And this sovereign has set up a sovereign body, politic and corporate, by filing a religious affidavit, affidavit of organization, i.e. our authority, on August the 1st, 1928 at 2:52 p.m. using the Hurd-Smith Revised Statutes, Chapter 32, Section 36. I just want to put it out there. I just want to put it out there. So if you come in any other way, I don't understand what you're doing. Now, so by 1938, the corporate federal government had the true bankruptcy case they had been looking for. Now, the bankruptcy that had been declared back in 1930 could be upheld and administered. That's why the Supreme Court had to be stacked and made corrupt from within. The new players on the Supreme Court fully understood that they had to destroy all other case law that had been established prior to 1938, and we went into some of that. The federal government had to have a case to destroy all precedent, all appearance, and even the statute of law itself. That is, the statutes at large had to be perverted. They finally got their case in Erie versus Tompkins. It was right after that case that the American Law Institute and the National Conference of Commissioners on the Uniform State Laws, listed right in the front of the Uniform Commercial Code, began creating the Uniform Commercial Code that is on your backs right now. Let us quote directly from the preface of the original text, or the official text of the Uniform Commercial Code, 12th edition. The code was originally approved by its sponsors and the American Bar Association in 1952 and was revised in 1958 to incorporate a number of changes that had been recommended by the New York Law Revision Commission and other agencies. Subsequent amendments that were deemed desirable in light of experience under the code were approved by the permanent editorial board in 1962 and 1966. The above named groups and associations of private lawyers got together and started working on the Uniform Commercial Code, the UCC. It was somewhere between 1938 and 1940. I don't recall, but by the early 1940s and during the war, this committee was working to form the UCC and getting it ready to go on to the market. The UCC is the Law Merchants Code for the administration of the bankruptcy. Stop right there. The UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, is the Law Merchants Code for the administration of the bankruptcy. Do you get it now? Do you get it now? So all of you people that are nationalizing our people and using the Uniform Commercial Code to justify your behavior, I need you to understand what you're actually doing. I need you to understand what you're doing. The UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, is the Law Merchants Codes for the administration of the bankruptcy. The UCC is the Law Merchants Code for the administration of the bankruptcy. The UCC is now the law of the land as far as the courts are concerned. This legal committee of lawyers put everything, negotiable instruments, security, sales, contracts, and the whole mess under the Uniform Commercial Code. Is this why you using it? Is this why the Moors are using the UCC codes? Because you don't know how to apply natural law, common sense in these military tribunals called a courtroom? Is this what's going on? Because you don't know that you have proclaimed your nationality and you have now changed jurisdictions effectively? You don't know how to get this white boy off your back? You don't know how to get this man off your back? Let me show you how. Let me show you how. See, you have to have a common law court. We got our own court system. How about that? Our court has territorial jurisdiction over the continental Americas, North, South, Central, and the surrounding islands. Really? A citizen subject to the Moorish American National Republic state within the several states of the United States for America, not of America, for America. When you see the United States for America, that's talking about the Republic. U period, S period, A period. The Republic for which it stands. Article 4, Section 4 of the Free National Constitution that Prophet Noble Drew Ali told you to obey in his divine warning of 1928. The Free National Constitution that Prophet Noble Drew Ali told you about said government in Act 5 in the Moorish Science Temple Constitution and bylaws. Thus, a citizen subject to the Moorish American National Republic state within the several states of the United States for America is eligible to remove any case, whether civil or criminal, to this court. Really? But you don't want to go this way. You want to deal with the Uniform Commercial Code. You want to deal with the military tribunals called a courtroom. You want to deal with the bankruptcy of the United States. You want to uphold that. I don't get it. But nevertheless, I just wanted to show it to you. That way you never be able to say I didn't know. I didn't know. You're not going to be able to feign ignorance today, because I'm going to make it plain. I'm going to make it so plain that a fool will find it hard to err. So I know somebody out there is talking about, well, brother, if we don't pay any taxes, how are we going to fund the country? How are we going to get things done? Well, let's see. Your education is paid for by your local property taxes. I didn't say taxes was bad. You just need to know where your money is going. Education is paid for by your local property taxes. The tax on gasoline pays for the country's highways, the roads and stuff. Corporate income tax pays for the military defense, and that's a real big budget. So corporate income tax, that would be businesses. Notice it said corporate income tax. Income is from gains, profits from gains, investments, profits, real estate, things like that, not wages. Just wanted to put that out there for emphasis. So if you are filing one of these, if you filing one of these or one of these are for people who make wages, not income. You got to look these words up in a law dictionary. Just want to put it out there for emphasis. So you can continue paying after the day, even though the IRS says in section 31.3402, page 1, that the income tax that you are currently paying on your job is a voluntary withholding agreement. In general, an employee and his employer may enter into an agreement under section 3402B to provide for the withholding of income tax. First of all, again, you don't have income, you have a wage. I'm just saying. Now, if you really want to get sophisticated and deal with some stuff, let's deal with this. Let me find it. Hold on. Hold the phone. I gotta get what I'm looking for. Let me go this way. Hold the phone. I'm gonna find it. Bear with me. I know I got it up here because I just seen it. There it is. Boom. So now you come into the organization. You proclaim your nationality. You change your political status on all of your documents that were issued by the de facto government and her various de facto government agencies, as you were divinely instructed to do. You stop clinging to names and principles that delude to slavery. And then we have this affidavit, non-voluntary agreement of IRS form W4. Interesting. Let's see what it says. For the purpose of this affidavit, the term United States means only the federal legislative democracy of the District of Columbia. A lot of talk about the District of Columbia today. Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, and any other territory within the United States, which entity has its origins from the Organic Act of 1871, being the new government that was placed in this district. The term United States is not to be construed to mean or include the 48 Union State Republics, which is the U.S.A. pursuant to Title IV of the United States Code, Section 1. The United States Codes and the Codes of Federal Regulations, CFR, are so cited for illustrative purposes. The affiant is a natural person competent to make this affidavit and possesses full birthrights and unalienable rights by virtue of being under the jurisdiction of the Emancipation Proclamations of President Abraham Lincoln, including Article 13 with 20 sections, and also being under the divine authority of the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali with the Charter of Warrant and Dispensation number 1099. Both the jurisdiction and divine authority are prior to the fraudulent bankruptcy and in good faith for the purpose of avoidance, not evasion. It's not tax evasion, it's tax avoidance. We are not required to file a federal income tax as non-resident aliens. Due state as actual and constructive notice on the record. On the record. neither born or naturalized in the United States nor subject to its jurisdiction. So when you read the lawful definition of a federal citizen, or you read the lawful definition of the 14th Amendment, you will see this verbiage: neither born or naturalized in the United States. So to all the Moors that think that we are naturalizing our people into the United States, stop it. Stop it. We are naturalizing our people into said government that Prophet Noble Drew Ali talked about in Acts 6. Said in law means that which was before. Well, what was before what you have now? What you have now is a democracy. What you had before was a republic. Neither born or naturalized in the United States nor subject to its jurisdiction. What did you have before you had the United States? You had a union before you had the United States. Now, don't y'all teach that it was the Treaty of Peace and Friendship that brought the United States into existence? Hello? So what was before the United States? It was the Republic. It was a union. The affiant is not, as described in 26 CFR 1.1-1C and the 14th Amendment, a United States citizen. The affiant is a citizen of the U period, S period, A period, or a U.S. citizen, capital C, which described in Article 4, Section 2 of the Constitution for the U period, S period, A period. And therefore, the affiant is an alien with respect to the United States. You see why we filed that court order, non-resident alien? You see why we changed our status to non-resident alien? Because we are outside of the jurisdiction of the United States, that corporate entity that was brought into existence with the Organic Act of 1871, thereby placing a government in the District of Columbia. It is that entity that is administering and upholding the bankruptcy that filed for bankruptcy in 1930. Are you starting to get it? The affiant is not, as described in 26 United States Code 86.5 G1A, a resident of the United States. And we can do this all day long. But this is where I want you to pay attention to this. Let me get you right here. Hold on. I gotta find what I'm looking for. And again, get your own affidavit so you can read it for yourself. It's a lot to this. Here it is, section 22. This is what I wanted right here. The affiant is now a true American citizen as he has been naturalized, the process by which one acquires nationality after birth and becomes entitled to the privileges of citizenship, or is in the midst of the naturalization process that is in accordance with the executive will of President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation through the Moorish Science Temple, the Divine and National Movement of North America, Incorporated, number 13. The affiant, now knowing that the 16th Amendment of the Constitution for the U period, S period, A period, which allegedly created the income tax, was never properly ratified, and as being such, unconstitutional. By way of admission through an internal memorandum issued by the Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service, Roscoe L. Egger, Jr. who held office from 1981 to 1986. Now I know you like, that ain't what's happening. I know, because that's all slaves can say. I get it. I get it, but we getting ready to deal with it. Okay? We getting ready to deal with it. Uh-oh. I didn't want to do that. Close that out. Uh-oh. No, I don't want to do that. Let me see if I can close it. I can always get it back. Close it out. Let me get it back. Hold on here. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. We got some technical difficulties going on right now. Technical difficulties going on right now. So let me pull it up through my thumb drive. It'll be faster. Let me pull this up through my thumb drive. It will be faster. Oh boy, yeah, we having issues right now. Just bear with me. Hold on. Hold on. There are many ways to skin a cat, provided that you can hold it. This demonstration not going to be frustrated. I got this. I got this. Let me get to what I'm saying here. See, that's why I have everything backed up on my thumb drive, so that when things happen, I can just get right to it. Get back to it. I'm going to curl your socks in a minute. Hold on. I ain't done. Take my time with you. Okay, I see what's happening now. No problem. We're going to keep the cameras rolling because I'm still going to do what I'm doing. Hold the phone. We're going to be right back at it. Just bear with me 1 second. Take a bathroom break while I get what I'm looking for off this thumb drive. Here we go. Yep, got it right here. This is why I have important stuff backed up. Here we go. We were talking about that letter from the IRS commissioner. Well, before we go there, I'm going to get to the letter from the IRS commissioner. I need to get down here to drive the point. There we go. That's what I want right there. See what that says? This is a court order from our jurisdiction, from our common law court. Order recognizing Moorish Americans as non-resident alien individuals. That's one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come with the tangibility. In re, the matter of petitioner Thomas Muhammad Ill. That would be me. Now let's keep it moving. Let's go to section 8. Y'all know that's my favorite section, and let's magnify so everybody can see. The intent of this order is to clarify the foreign status of Moorish American citizens who are domiciled within the American landmass and not within the United States. The intent of this order is to clarify the foreign status of Moorish American citizens who are domiciled within the American landmass and not within the United States. The Moorish Science Temple, the Divine and National Movement of North America Incorporated, number 13, the Moorish American National Republic is a foreign entity with the right to self-autonomy as an indigenous tribal nation according to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. As Moorish American nationals, Moors are not U.S. citizens. Moorish Americans are American citizens, which is not to be confused with the corporate and artificial U.S. citizen. The United States is a corporation, and with that being said, Moors are not U.S. citizens. This is on the record, brother and sister, in the de facto government's jurisdiction. So I just needed you to understand that. I just needed you to understand that. So now, on through that. Okay, so now let me get down here to this letter right here. This is the letter that was mentioned in our affidavit that we send to the IRS. Okay. On March the 5th, 1985, a charge of tax evasion was filed in the U.S. District Court in Indianapolis, Indiana by U.S. Attorney Geo Duncan. The charges were dismissed. That's the first thing you need to understand. The charges were dismissed. The defense attorney Lyle Dockreth of Huntsville, Alabama, presented irrefutable evidence that the 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was never properly ratified. This amendment, which established the income tax, was signed into law despite serious defects. In reality, only 2 states ratified the amendment, and ratification requires 36 states to be valid. The effect of this is such that every tax paid into the Treasury since 1913 is due and refundable to every citizen and business. The official position of the service, that would be the Internal Revenue Service, the official position of the service is, as it always has been, to aid and assist the citizens of the United States. We will not publish or advertise this finding, as a total immediate refund would cause a serious drain on the resources of the Treasury. For those citizens who become aware of this finding and apply for a total refund, expedite their refund documents as quickly and as quietly as possible. I'm gonna stop right there. So when we tell you to proclaim your nationality, when we tell you to correct all your documents, that is exactly what we mean. When we tell you to file your paperwork a certain way and follow the lawful process in the way that you are being instructed to do it, especially in my PowerPoint demonstration, which is right here on the Moorish Experience website, is right there on the YouTube page, the Moorish paperwork process. If you would just follow it exactly the way I got it in the demonstration, you will be all right. I don't have a problem with the IRS. Matter of fact, I don't have a problem with none of these de facto government agencies. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there so you can understand. Now, let me keep it moving. Hold on, let me get back to what I was doing. Okay, so we went with the Supreme Court. We talked about that. We talked about the United States Corporation. Let's go here. We're going to do this for emphasis. You see what this is, right? The United States Supreme Court. Once again, let's magnify so everybody can see. One thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to, put it real small so you can't read it for yourself. The United States Supreme Court stipulated in Foley Brothers Incorporated versus Falardo in 336 U.S. 281 in 1949 that it is a well-established principle of law that all federal statutes and regulations apply only within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. And in parentheses, they have the District of Columbia. All federal statutes. Would not that include the Uniform Commercial Code, the United States codes, CFRs, etc. The Internal Revenue Service operates under Title 26, the Internal Revenue Code, statutory laws, and its lesser known administrative, procedural, and implementing regulations regarding federal income taxation found in Title 26 Code of the Federal Regulation. These federal statutes and regulations used by the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, are applicable only within the territorial and legislative jurisdiction of the District of Columbia. But if you are a non-resident alien under the divine authority of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, because you have joined yourself on to a body politic and corporate, then this does not apply to you. Can't make it no plainer than what I'm making it. Can't make it no plainer than what I'm making it. Statutory taxpayers are defined to mean any person subject to any internal revenue tax. We are not subject to internal revenue tax. We're not taxpayers. That's why on our affidavit it says tax avoidance, not tax evasion. Tax avoidance. Tax evasion is for those who were required to file a federal income tax but did not. Tax evasion applies to U.S. citizens, legal fictions, corporate entities. See what it says? See what it says? Statutory taxpayers are defined to mean any person subject to any internal revenue tax. The statutory term, see, the statutory term person as defined in the Internal Revenue Code at section 7701A1 refers only to statutory legal fictions created by and under the dominion of the United States Congress. In effect, we have two governments in effect. Let me bring that up for you so that you can, get that in your mind. Hold on. Let me get back to my Supreme Court cases because I don't want you to lose the point. You see, I don't want you to lose the point. Let me go here. Let me help you with this. Let's see what it says. United States of America Congressional Record, Monday, August the 19th, 1940. Okay. Two different and distinct nations. The ideal prevails with some. Indeed, it has expression in arguments at the bar that we have in this country substantially two national governments, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all of its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independently of that instrument. Okay. The ideal prevails with some. Indeed, it has expression in arguments at the bar that we have in this country substantially two national governments. We have a free national government, a republic, and then we have a national government, a democracy. Okay, make it plain. One is to be maintained under the free national constitution, the republic, Article 4, Section 4 of the free national constitution, the first 7 articles of the original constitution, which states that all states shall be governed by a republican form of government with all of its restrictions, and the other to be maintained by Congress. That's the one that's the government that is in the District of Columbia. That's the one that's governing all the legal fictions, all the corporate entities, all the 14th Amendment citizens, all the U.S. citizens, all the people that have a federal citizenship. Those people. all the people who have not proclaimed their nationality and actually put that on the record, making it widely known, publicly known, and widely spread. They didn't do it through the courts. They didn't do it properly. Just wanted to put that out there. Now, that being said, let's go here. All day I'm gonna do this. I know y'all like, what? Brother outside his mind, what is he doing? Let me go here. Let me go here. Because I talked about these taxes being a portion, and I said that the United States Constitution was against this. So now let's take a look at the Free National Constitution. We talked about what a direct tax was. We talked about what indirect taxes were. And that they must be a portion amongst the several states. So now, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, representatives and direct taxes shall be a portion among the several states which may include within this union. Stop right there. Representatives and direct taxes shall be a portion among the several states. A portion means spread evenly. Hold on. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes. So if the Congress has power to lay and collect taxes, what is the Internal Revenue Service? What do you follow? This is the Free National Constitution we got on the screen right now. The one Prophet Noble Drew Ali is talking about. It says Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties imposed, and exercises. Remember we talked about exercises? The things you can avoid. You can avoid excise tax on gasoline because you don't have to drive a car. You can avoid the excise tax on tobacco so you can choose not to smoke. Excises are things that you can avoid. So what is this Internal Revenue Code? Didn't we show you that the Supreme Court has already held these things to be unconstitutional with the 16th Amendment? Did we not show you the letter from the IRS commissioner? Did we not just read that a few minutes ago? Now you're looking at the Free National Constitution. Now do you see why Prophet Noble Drew Ali kept talking about free national constitution, free national government, the republic, your free national name? You understand why he used the word adjective free? That's why. So hopefully, now you have a better understanding of what you are doing when you filling out these W-4s and whatnot. Hopefully. Now, I'm going to end my last point I'm going to make today. Let me find it. Hopefully I can find it. Bear with me. Just bear with me 1 second. Got so many words up here, boy. I'm not trying to overlook it. I think I'm getting close. I think I went past it. Don't have to wing it. I really wanted to read it out of here so that it would just curl your socks. And it's a good point to end on. so that you understand the seriousness of this situation and understand that we are not the only people in the Moorish Science Temple that understand what these organizations and documents are. But some of us just are seeing this information for the first time, and I know you're like, whoa, I don't understand what's going on right now. This is crazy. But if brother and sister, if I have it on your screen, then understand I can't be the only person that knows about it. I can't be. You see, I can't be. Actually, I know I read all of this, but anyway, since I can't seem to find what I'm looking for, and I know it's on here, because I read it, and when I read it, I pulled up the specific document so that everybody could see it. But anyway, since I can't find what I'm looking for, and maybe Allah don't want me to show you it in this particular document, but I have the document that was, matter of fact, I know I don't went past it. I have the actual document on my thumb drive. I've been jumping over it all night. There was a certain way that I wanted to set this up so that you could understand the seriousness of the situation, but I seem to overlook what I am looking for, unless, nope, it's definitely in this particular document right here. But I might have had the wrong document. This is definitely in this one. Now, what I don't want to do is actually end my demonstration and then I go, aha, there it is right there, and then I close it out. Because I'm not going to do a part two to this. Not going to happen. I've covered everything I wanted to cover, with the exception of this last point. And I'm still going to cover the last point whether I find the information in this document or not, because I know what it says. I know what I'm looking for. I'm going to take another minute and I'm going to try to find it. And we are going to continue and end out this demonstration. Now, so get your beverage. We coming to the end. We see the runway, the airport. See the runway. I found it. Yep, I found it. I found it. The verbiage I was looking for. Now let me get my other dot. Matter of fact, let me close everything out so I know that we are actually done with the demonstration. I'm closing everything out. Yeah, let's get all this out the way. We're gonna leave that up there. Let's close this out. We've already talked about the importance of the W4. We don't need to rehash any of that. Close that out. Close this out. There's our taxpayer affidavit. Close that out. We're gonna leave that up because we're getting ready to talk about it. We're gonna ready to talk about that too. We close this out. We can close. This is the incorporation of the Internal Revenue Tax, the Internal Revenue, not the tax, but the Internal Revenue Service, IRS. There's their incorporation right there. Close that out. Don't need to discuss the IRS any further this evening. Close out that. We're actually going to, I need that verbiage, and we can actually close this out now because we've already done what we've done. We can close out nope, we're going to leave Act 6 up. We can close this out. Don't need to talk about that. This is our website. You can go to our website, MoorishAmericanNationalRepublic.com. Okay, you can do that. There's the national debt. Take a look at it one more time. We're going to close that out. 32 trillion and counting. We're going to close that out. We actually going to close this out. We don't need that anymore. Okay. Now, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. It is important to take cognizance, means understanding, of the fact that no constitutional amendment was ever obtained to fundamentally change, amend, abridge, or abolish the constitutional mandates, provisions, and prohibitions, but due to internal and external diversions surrounding the Vietnam War, etc., the usurpation and breach went unchallenged and unnoticed by the general public at large, who had become a wealthy man's cannon fodder or cheap source of slave labor. See Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, pages 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, and 56. Brother and sister, this is a European that wrote this. What is he talking about? This. See what it says? The King Alfred Plan. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Executive Order number 11490, the Rex 84 Plan and Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, has been in the hands of the properly accepted individuals calling themselves the Black leaders since the early 1970s. Many have spoken of them, but few have logistically broken them down and disseminated the information to their alluring public. The King Alfred Plan implicates the true motive and reason why they do not. One will take note that all the people mentioned in these government plans, Blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites, do not include a de jure national name, meaning true national name or title. Why? Because these people have not proclaimed their nationality. That's why. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they must know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to the slaves by the slaveholders in 1779. One will take note that all the people mentioned in these government plans, Blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites, do not include a de jure national name or title. All these words are descriptive chattel brands coined by Europeans as substitute pedigree parentage names and were forced as appellations on the indigenous people of the Americas and their children. All people bearing these labels are referred to as it in these texts. One common thread is evident. No nationality equals no rights and no human value. No nationality equals no rights and no human value. No nationality equals no rights and no human value. Now, you've seen me do that before, but what you haven't seen is when we do this. See, we got to first of all, let's see who's participating in this King Alfred Plan. The National Security Council. So see, let me help you understand something. When you join our organizations and you get frustrated like I do a lot of times, see, it's good for me to go reread information. See, anytime we working hard in an organization, but the organization is not moving, that means the organization has been infiltrated, heavily infiltrated, because it ain't moving. Got people coming to here with good ideas and good suggestions, and we trying to work these good ideas and good suggestions, but it ain't getting no traction. That's because look who your open enemies are. Participating federal agencies, National Security Council, Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, the Department of the Interior. Are you serious? All of these people involved in the King Alfred plan. Participating state agencies under federal jurisdiction, the National Guard Unit and the state police. Participating local agencies under federal jurisdiction, city police, county police. Now keep in mind, when it says federal jurisdiction, it's talking about that government that was put in the District of Columbia called the United States, that corporate entity. I need you to understand that. Now let's keep it moving. There's an exotic map of the U period. Now, why did they write U period, S period, A period? What do they know that you don't know? What is it that they know that you don't know? This is the Republic. I told you we had a union. You thought I was playing? It's in their government plan. The original name of these cities and states. So that should tell you that they didn't create none of this. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. Oh my God. Silent Weapon Executive Order 11490, King Alfred. Memo to the National Security Council. Now, isn't the National Security Council, don't that direct the United States military in clandestine operations? The overthrow of other countries and free sovereign states? Look at who we got all up in our business in the Black community. National Security Council. Even before 1954, when the Supreme Court of the United States of America declared unconstitutional separate educational and recreational facilities, racial unrest and discord had become very nearly a part of the American way of life. But that way of life was repugnant to most Americans. Since 1954, however, that unrest and discord have broken out into widespread violence, which increasingly have placed the peace and stability of the nation in dire jeopardy. Now, if you've seen my previous demonstrations and you have seen the letters that were written by our National Grand Sheik, you notice the same verbiage is in his letters in communication with the de facto government. This violence has resulted in loss of life, limb, and property, and has cost the taxpayers of this nation billions of dollars. And the end is not yet in sight. This same violence has raised the tremendous grave question as to whether the races can ever live in peace with each other. Separation is the best and only solution. Each passing month has brought new intelligence that despite new laws passed to alleviate the condition of the minority still is not satisfied. Demonstrations and rioting have become a part of the familiar scene. Troops have been called out in city after city across this land, and our image as a world leader severely damaged. Our enemies press closer, seeking the advantage, possibly at a time during one of these outbreaks of violence. The minority has adopted an almost military posture to gain its objectives, which are not clear to most Americans. It is expected, therefore, that when those objectives are denied the minority, racial war must be considered inevitable. When that emergency comes, we must expect the total involvement of all 22 million members of the minority. Now it's 50 million members of the minority, men, women, and children. For once this project is launched, its goal is to terminate once and for all the minority threat to the whole of American society and indeed the free world. Chairman, National Security Council. What? Do you understand the law of the land? Wait a minute. Hold the phone. Hold it. Hold it. You see that up there? October the 19th, 1969? At the First Continental Convention, George Washington said, if we would agree to take the feathers and turbans off the Moor's head and swear a death oath never to allow anyone to teach the Moors who they really are, and only allow them to be taught that they are Negroes, black people, colored folks, etc., 200 years from today, they will not know their national origin or what land they are from. That was in 1774. 200 years from 1774 is 1974. You see the date? Let's continue. They on their job. Let's continue. Watch this though. This is Department of Interior. This is the same memo. In case of emergency, minority members will be evacuated from the cities by federalized National Guard units, local and state police, and if necessary, by units of the regular armed forces. See, they're not playing with us. Using public and military transportation and detained in nearby military installations until a further course of action has been decided. Let's continue. Let's continue. Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the CIA. Let's see what they're talking about. There are 12 major minority organizations, and all are familiar to the 22 million, now 50 million. Dossiers have been compiled on the leaders of the organizations and can be studied in Washington. So ain't no sense of you tripping when I tell you that the federal government is watching my demonstrations. I'm well aware. The material contained in many of the dossiers and our threat to reveal that material has considerably held in check the activities of some of the leaders, talking about the black leaders. Leaders who do not have such usable material in their dossiers have been approached to take government posts, mostly as ambassadors and primarily in African countries. The promise of these positions also has materially contributed to a temporary slowdown of minority activities. Did you catch that? A temporary slowdown of minority activities. However, we do not expect these slowdowns to be of long duration because there are always new and dissident elements joining these organizations with the potential power to replace the old leaders. So they're looking at the young people coming into the organization, pushing the old leadership out. All organizations and their leaders are under constant 24-hour surveillance. And they list the names of the organizations. Look at who's number one on the list. And for all of y'all that thought y'all was safe because you joined the NAACP, you're number 10. All of you that thought you was safe because you are a Christian and you in the church, look at point number 2. Look at point number 11. Look at point number 9. I'm going to just leave it out there. Let's move on. At the appropriate time to be designated by the president, the leaders of some of these organizations are to be detained only when it is clear that they cannot prevent the emergency. Working with local public officials during the first critical hours. All other leaders are to be detained at once. Compiled lists of minority leaders have been ready at the National Data Computer Center. It is necessary to use the minority leaders designated by the president in much the same manner in which we use minority members who are against who are agents, pardon self, who are agents with the central and federal. And we cannot, until there is no alternative, reveal King Alfred in all aspects. Minority members of Congress will be unseated at once. So there goes your Black Caucus. Minority members of Congress will be upseated at once. I thought you was a U.S. citizen. No nationality means no rights and no human value. This move is not without precedent in American history. Really? This memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Really? That report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage. Wait a minute. Bound to the continent? Bound to the continent? Not the country. He's bound to the continent by heritage. Really? So you thought we was playing when we told you in the last tier of law that the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. The Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited means the permanent occupant of the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Said another way, he will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage and knows that political asylum will not be available to him in other countries. The greatest concentration of the minority is in the Deep South, the Eastern Seaboard, and the Great Lakes region, and the West Coast. I don't know what else I need to say to you. Now, Great White Father, who wrote that other memorandum, told you to refer to the King Alfred plan. I'm trying to get you to understand something on a different level. Now, I think I'm gonna put a pin in it. I think I'm gonna put a pin in it. I think I've covered everything that I want to cover. Therefore, we should be good now. So, that being said, hopefully you found this information to be impactful, informative. Hopefully you are inspired to get your life together, change your political status. Hopefully you are getting into our School of Law and History, learning all about the policy of freedom and the laws that we need to enforce to not only save ourselves, but to save the nation. And until next time, brother and sister, we're going to greet you as we came with the greeting words of peace of Islam, 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 peace, peace, peace. Until next time, may Allah bless you with the light of understanding, and we will catch you on the flip side. Peace.